For the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Wednesday, alone again here in the Cogswell Motors studio. But thank you for joining us. Appreciate you taking time to visit with us today. Brad Caldwell will call in at 11:30, and we're going to talk Hogs and much more. I've got some, I don't want to call it breaking news because it happened yesterday, but we've got some important topics to talk about. The Oklahoma State situation. Is it a situation? Is it a media-driven, overblown story? Or is it a huge fiasco? We'll talk about that here in a little bit. We'll also preview the Razorbacks and Southern Miss. Some people are saying it's a stair-step game where Arkansas is going to go against a better opponent than it's seen so far. I tend to disagree, but I do think that there are some things that Arkansas can work on this week in that game. I will also look at some crazy Monday night football games that happened this Monday when we left the air, following us leaving the air on Monday, and we'll talk a lot more about the NFL today. Football heavy today on the show, but let's start real quickly with our Peters Family Living local sports look. For those of you that weren't able to watch Monday, we ran through all the games that took place in our coverage area at rivervalleyleader.com every Friday night. You can come to facebook.com/RVL News. You can find out who your team's playing. You can find out what the score is. You can help us if you're at the game by posting your team's score in a comment below our scoreboard. We're trying our best this year to help you know what's going on in all the games in real time. I think it's a cool undertaking. It's a good way for you guys to get involved, and we appreciate those that helped us the other night. By the time the last game ended, you could have seen that status and seen exactly what happened in all 10 games, or in all 10 teams' cases for the coverage area. So that's a really cool deal. This week, we will be live at Russellville for the Russellville Cyclones and Siloam Springs Panthers. But the Cyclones started their season last week with a win at Morrilton, a 43-28 win. This week, they're going to be hosting a tailgate party, free food, pretty cool stuff, bump and jump there. You can go to facebook.com/RVL News and see the flyer there, or you can go to rivervalleyleader.com directly, and you can see the flyer to that event. It's going to be a pretty sweet deal. They said all you have to bring is your own lawn chair, so you can come be a part of that if you just show up at Cyclone Stadium on Friday night. That's going to be our featured game of the week. Ryan Smith will be there. I will not, because I'll be at Clarksville High School for my 10-year reunion. I'm feeling old, and it's just one of those things. I'm going to be down on the field for the first half taking pictures of the Clarksville Panthers and Ozark Hillbillies. Last week I was it's kind of funny. I was at Russellville for a scrimmage. I think it was junior high scrimmage. And me and Coach Tony Davis, Clarksville basketball coach, were sort of teaming up against some Ozark people on Twitter. Well, one of my friends, good friends from high school, and she went to Hot Springs, but she moved to the U of O, and we became friends after a missions trip following our senior years, so we knew each other. She married a guy from Ozark, and he's the head basketball coach at Ozark, Brad Johnson. Well, we're bad-mouthing them on Twitter, bad-mouthing Ozark, and he sees it, and he starts commenting back to Coach Davis, because Coach Davis said something to the effect that Ozark won't play him in basketball, and just kind of making fun of him, poking him a little bit. And I basically said, I hate Ozark. I never have liked him my whole life. And so, she sees this, and she comes on Facebook and she posts on my wall, why are you making fun of my husband's team? And I said, I'm making fun of your husband's school. I hate them. We've just hated Ozark our whole lives at Clarksville. But it turned into a pretty funny little deal there. And this Friday on the field, it'll get settled. A couple years ago, I remember I went to Ozark to cover Clarksville, and it was a 33-0 game. I think it was 30. Final score was 33 or 38-0. It was just a horrible massacre. Ozark dominated Clarksville in the game, but that's been in my mind. Well, Ozark's down a little bit. They got beat by Boonville last week. They replaced a whole bunch of guys who went to the state championship last year in 4A. But I've heard from a couple different sources, including one at the Clarksville high school football, inside the Clarksville high school football program, that said Clarksville's going to take this game. So I'm looking forward to being there and getting to take some pictures for the first half and just getting to visit with some of my classmates I haven't seen in a long time at our reunion. But that's going to be the second game that we'll cover this week. So we'll have the scores live from Russellville and Clarksville instantly posted to our Facebook page. We need your help if you're going to Dardanelle's game, Dover, Pottsville, Danville, Atkins, Hector, Two Rivers, any of those schools, and you can help us. Lamar. Lamar's at home against Subiaco, so if you can help with any of those games, you can comment below our scoreboard post, and you can help keep us up to date. Well, just really up to the minute with what's going on in your games. Again, let's run through last Friday's action so that we can let you know where teams are going to be this weekend as well. Pottsville was our featured game of the week last week. They beat Heber Springs 57-28. Thought that was going to be a little closer game. I admitted on Monday that if I had known that Pottsville was going to run off like that from Heber, we probably would have gone to the Russellville-Morrilton game, just to be honest, or to the Atkins-Dover Rivals Cup. That would have probably been the one we picked. But Atkins got Dover 48-35 in the Rivals Cup too, so that was a fairly close game for the most part. Dover actually had a lead in the second half, if I'm not mistaken, in the Rivals Cup, but Atkins was able to take that. Dardanelle beat Danville in the Judges Cup 42-0. Just been a rough stretch for the Danville Little Johns in that rivalry. 33-0 last year, 42-0 this year. That's a pretty bad 2-year stretch. So the Danville Little Johns, they'll come back, though. They've always been right there. Dardanelle's just going in a different direction right now and moving up the chain in the 4A, while Danville is still down there in 3A trying to compete. Clarksville lost 42-19 to Charleston. I mentioned that they've got Ozark this weekend, so it's going to be a big one for the Panthers. Two Rivers beat Hector 40-34. Again, we mentioned that Hector had a quick turnaround. They played Tuesday. They had to come back and play Friday as well. They beat Hartford on Tuesday night, and then they had to turn around and play Hector on Friday night, or play Two Rivers on Friday night, and Two Rivers got the best of them. Congratulations to the Gators on the 40-34 win. Lamar got a big win over a higher classification school in Gravette. They won 35-14. I was impressed from what I heard about Lamar that, they've got a guy named Jalen Chenault who is a very good athlete, and he was, by a lot of accounts, going to be the star player for Lamar this year, and they would double him. Or I've heard that the Gravette players were saying, watch two, I think he's number 2, watch two, and then this other guy, Ryan Jones, who I know a little bit, had a really good game, 2 or 3 touchdowns in the game. So really big game for Lamar there, winning 35-14 against Gravette. And this week, Lamar is going to host Subiaco Academy. So that's going to be a big game for the Warriors as they try to go 2-0 against the 4A early on in their schedule. They go down to 3A for conference, but they're taking on 4A and non-conference, challenging themselves. Next year, they actually play Clarksville, so they're bouncing up to play a 5A team, and a huge rivalry that is from days gone by. The communities will show up big time for that one next year, but that's looking a little bit ahead. We mentioned Two Rivers and Hector. Two Rivers is traveling to Poen on Friday night, and Hector is hosting Hackett, looking to go to 2-1 early on in the season. Mentioned Clarksville is hosting Ozark. It's homecoming, and it's going to be a big deal. You've got, I know there are a lot of distractions on homecoming. You've got the homecoming court, you've got the maids and the queen, and all these people coming back, and they're actually supposed to be honoring the oldest living Clarksville Panther on the field Friday night. We're going to try to have an interview with him. Ryan Smith is trying to set that up right now to write a little feature story on him. Just a real cool deal, and we're going to try to get that on video as well. That's Friday night, Clarksville hosting Ozark. We've got some tickets that we're going to give away Friday to the Clarksville Panthers and Ozark Hillbillies on Friday night. Dardanelle, Danville. Dardanelle is going to be traveling to Mayflower, and Danville is going to be traveling to Mineral Springs. Atkins and Dover. Atkins is going to be at Bigelow, and Dover is going to be at home against Arkansas Baptist. We mentioned Pottsville. They're going to be hosting Fountain Lake, 2 games in a row at Pottsville at George Jones Stadium. So congratulations to the Apaches on a pretty nice start there as they get to play 2 games in a row at home after last year where they started 2 on the road. And then we mentioned Russellville and the tailgate party going to be taking place from 5 to 7 at Cyclone Stadium. They're hosting the Siloam Springs Panthers, who just tied Shiloh Christian 35-35 last Friday night. So the Cyclones looking to go 2-0 and want you to be involved in their tailgate party. It's going to be a sweet atmosphere. It's going to be a really cool atmosphere for 2 people who are going to win season passes to watch the Cyclones home games. We're going to figure out how to give those away, and we'll let you know on Friday. You'll have to be watching the Sports Blitz to find out how to win those, but we've got 2 tickets right here that are they're actually hard cards here. I appreciate Johnny Johnson and the Russellville Cyclones athletic program for donating these 2 football passes, good for admission to all high school football games at Cyclone Stadium this year, and we are going to give those away on Friday as well as the Clarksville tickets. So we've got quite a bit going on in local sports this Friday night. Again, let us know what's going on with your school by commenting below the story. If you've got any interesting story ideas for me, if you've got any photos that you want to share with us, you can email mark@rivervalleyleader.com all week. And on Friday, if you can, talk to your athletic director, talk to your coach, and ask them to send in information from their games. We would love to have that information to pass along to our readers. We mentioned Arkansas Tech on Monday. They got a 38-10 win over Northwest Oklahoma in Raymond Monica's first game as Arkansas Tech head Wonder Boy, and they're going to be playing Southwest Oklahoma in their home opener this Saturday at Thone Stadium at Burkle Field. 6 o'clock is the kickoff there if you want to get out to, I almost said Tucker Coliseum again. I always do that. To Arkansas Tech and watch the Wonder Boys in Raymond Monica's home opener. He really, I'm sure, would love to have a big crowd there at home for his opener there. And if they can go to 2-0, knowing the GAC and how tough it is, that would be a very welcome thing for the Wonder Boys. I know Henderson State, who is the class of the Great American Conference, scored 80 points. This ain't basketball. This is football, and they scored 80 points this week. I've still yet to figure out how in the world you let a team score 80 points or why don't want to go there. No, I am going to go there. I don't know why as a college football coach you score 80 points in a game. Unless the other team scored 60, 70 points, why in the world would you score 80 points? And I don't know what the score was, but I know they scored 80 points, and that's just kind of ridiculous. It takes me back to listening to Clarksville, who won an playoff game in the 4A, I want to say it was 09, and they won a playoff game, and they got to earn the right to go to Shiloh Christian and get massacred. And they lost 84-14 in a playoff game. In the second round of the playoffs, you're going to score 84 points against the team when they can't stop you no matter what they do. I remember when Oklahoma played Texas A&M and they beat them 77-0. In the third quarter, it was 77-0, and they were taking a knee at the 1-yard line. They were falling down on purpose so that they didn't have to score again. Do something to avoid scoring 70, 80 points if you can. Anyway, Henderson State is loaded, and Arkansas Tech's going to have to deal with that and much more in the Great American Conference. So I'm looking forward to a good game there at Thone Stadium. I'm going to try to get out there on Saturday, but I've got some high school reunion stuff to do on Saturday as well. So we'll look forward to finding out what happens for Arkansas Tech on Saturday against Oklahoma State, or Southwest Oklahoma State. Good Lord, if they played Oklahoma State. We do have some news about Oklahoma State here in a little bit. There's some allegations, pretty heavy, serious allegations coming out about Oklahoma State from a Sports Illustrated article. We've got our poll question. Where would you rank the top 5 NFL teams? Who would you rank as your top 5 NFL teams? That's our Peters Family Living poll question. After 1 week, where would you put them in your power rankings? We've got a couple answers. One person, they just said Dallas Cowboys. I don't care about the other top 5 teams. They just said Dallas Cowboys. That's all I need. So we've got some poll questions. We've got some ways for you to get involved. 968 News is the phone number. Give us a call and let us know what you think. We've got plenty left on the Sports Blitz. Stay with us through this break.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
We're back on the Sports Blitz. Mark Freeman and an empty chair in the Cogswell Motors studio. Brad Caldwell is going to call in following this segment, and he's going to talk hogs with me. I'm sure I'm going to get his opinions on the biggest story of the day, and that's the fallout from a Sports Illustrated expose on Oklahoma State University and some alleged misconduct over a long period, over a decade there at Oklahoma State. It's our big story of the day, the big story of yesterday for sure. And it was basically several different people working for Sports Illustrated who went into great detail, a 5-part series in Sports Illustrated about Oklahoma State players getting paid, Oklahoma State itself looking over some alleged drug test fails, and basically saying, just look the other way and let this guy play. And then what I thought was probably the craziest allegation, and I don't doubt that this happens at some places, but it's kind of crazy to me that this allegation came out that there were females interviewed by Les Miles and Mike Gundy. Now, these are all allegations. Please understand. I'm not reporting these things as facts, and you'll see why here in a minute, that these folks were interviewed by these coaches. Females were interviewed by these coaches for the sole job of being basically escorts for recruits during recruiting visits, and they were to have sex with potential recruits. I don't understand why the head coach of any university, especially a Big 12 school, a big school, would be in the loop in that, and why they would interview these women themselves. That doesn't make any sense to me, but that is the allegation nonetheless. I got to ask the people what their thoughts are about this, and a friend of mine who's actually an Oklahoma State fan, so we got to take this with a grain of salt, but I sort of agree with him, and I don't like Oklahoma State at all. Grew up in Oklahoma and OU Sooners fan, so you'd rather die than root Oklahoma State, and I'm not on their side in much as far as sports go, but I find this situation fishy. I said, have you read about the Oklahoma State situation? What are your thoughts? That's on Facebook.com/SportsBlitz. And Josh Level says, lies, lies, and more lies. One former player said a man approached him asking if he had any hatred towards Miles, that's Les Miles, for lack of playing time, and if he could talk about it. The player says nothing, yet he's a source. I see headhunting by a Miles hater. See, the issue with this is that it doesn't stop with Les Miles. That goes on to Mike Gundy and becomes a big, big deal if this is sort of lack of institutional control, one of those things where things go on for 10 years. You're interviewing escorts for recruits, for recruiting visits. You're paying players. Des Bryant comes out and says, I didn't get paid, and if I didn't get paid, I sure as heck know nobody else is getting paid. They went and interviewed, and I read a story just before we came on the air from a player. I think his name was Aso Pogai. I think is how you say his name. He was a former quarterback at Oklahoma State, and he said he's a youth pastor in Lawton, Oklahoma now, and Sports Illustrated guy came to interview him. He said, can we talk? And he says, yeah, I'm with Sports Illustrated. I'd just like to talk with you for a little bit. And he said he came in and he started asking him all these questions. He thought it was just a conversation, but it turned into an interview. Well, he said that the guy from Sports Illustrated didn't write anything down, didn't ask him if he could record anything, didn't put a recorder in front of him or anything like that, just started asking him all these questions. And basically, Pogai said he was just so taken aback by it. He didn't really say it. He was just like, wow, this is crazy. And in the story, Pogai is quoted as saying, in reference to these allegations, wow, it's crazy. I was the starting quarterback. And, he knew about all this stuff. But when he said in the interview itself that he didn't know it was an interview and that he didn't think was being recorded, that's not how it went, that he was taken out of context. And he said more than once, and the person who was interviewing him this second time said, asked him more than once, did he take any notes at all? He didn't have a recorder. Did he take it that you saw? Now, he could have been recording, something in his pocket or something like that, but he didn't take any notes at all. So, to me, this whole situation seems to me, and I'm not saying that nothing wrong happened at Oklahoma State, but it seems to me like there's somebody with an axe to grind or somebody trying to make a name for themselves. And I say that because there's a man by the name of Thayer Evans that's sort of involved in this story, and he's a former CBS Sports employee or Yahoo Sports employee. I'd have to find out for sure, but he worked with Jason Whitlock, who is one of my favorite writers, just because he's one of those guys who'll just tell it like it is. And he worked with him several years ago, and as this story came out and Thayer Evans' name is attached to it, Jason Whitlock comes out on Twitter basically and says, I don't believe a thing that comes out of this dude's mouth because he's dirty. And now we see this stuff sort of starting to unravel as far as the way that they went about the interview process and everything like that. And it's starting to become a question to me whether or not they went about things the right way journalistically, because it's one of those things you just don't do. For those that don't know, you don't go in with a recorder and not tell somebody, or ask somebody, can I record this conversation? Because it's sort of disingenuous to do that. And you definitely don't go in without a notepad. And, if you're going to quote somebody, you want to have the words the right way. And they use these quotes out of context according to the source. And, it's kind of, you go to the guy and you ask him questions. He says, I didn't say that. I was just watching The Newsroom. Do any of y'all watch The Newsroom? Either one of you, the TV show? You will eventually, because it's awesome. But I was just watching it last night, and there was a guy who did that. He literally did that on the show. He took somebody's words and chopped them up to make it say what he wanted him to say, and it turned out to be, the guy was just making this stuff up, and it was a big, big, big deal, and it is a big deal, and it could ruin this. I'm not saying that this guy did this, but it could ruin somebody's career, a lot of people's careers with Sports Illustrated or in journalism, if this comes out to be that this Oklahoma State stuff is not true. But if it is true, on the flip side, Oklahoma State is, as I tweeted yesterday, in for a ginormous slap on the wrist 10 to 15 years from now. Because you know how slow the NCAA works and how they basically go about their business in the NCAA. They'll find something out, they'll find a mountain of evidence, and then they'll say, we don't really know anything. And then they'll slap you on the wrist and take away a scholarship and sit you in the corner for 5 minutes and tell you, put your nose in the corner. That's about all they do with the NCAA. But if this all did turn out to be true, Oklahoma State, in all seriousness, would be in a lot of trouble. If you're paying players and you're organizing sexcapades and you're, turning a blind eye to drug tests, this sounds a lot like SMU to me. And if it's over a decade, it's sort of like the Pony Excess, if you've seen that 30 for 30, where they're paying players, they're outbidding Texas for Eric Dickerson and buying him a brand new car, and it's parked in the parking lot out there. You're doing some pretty bad stuff if you're Oklahoma State and this stuff is true. So I'll be interested to see what comes out and what's true. I'll be more interested if it's all true, but the journalists went about it the wrong way and, cooked some quotes and made some changes just to fit their agenda, and it turns out that Oklahoma State gets away with a lot of this stuff because of the way the journalists went about their business. That would be even more interesting to me. So we'll keep an eye on the situation, and we'll let you know sort of how it comes out. I'm sure you'll hear in the news, but I'm interested to see how this all goes. It's just, to me, it's a multi-dimensional, multifaceted story that I'm interested to follow. So today's Peter's Family Living poll question, it doesn't deal with the Oklahoma State situation. We're going to let that go. And if you have any thoughts on it, you can call us at 968-NEWS. But today's poll question just deals with the NFL, though, as we switch gears. 1 week into the NFL season, which teams would you list in your top 5, the power rankings? I told you earlier that somebody said Dallas Cowboys. That's all they put. 1 through 5 is the Dallas Cowboys. I could not agree any less. I love the Cowboys. Been a Cowboys fan my whole life. I don't know that I would put them in the I know that I would not put them in the top 5 right now. They look pretty rough coming into the first game against the New York Giants, needing 6 turnovers from the Giants to sneak out with a win. They're in Jerry World. I will give them credit, though. It's the first time they've beaten the Giants in Jerry World, so it's baby steps for my Cowboys. They're going to need to come along as an offense. They're going to need to come along as a defense as well, because you're not always going to get those turnovers. Mike Heath answered the questions. He's got Denver at number 1, San Francisco number 2, New Orleans number 3, Seahawks number 4, and Eagles number 5. Ooh. The Eagles did look good on offense, and we'll talk with Brad here in just a little bit after the break about his thoughts on this, because he's one that really likes the high-speed offense, the high tempo. And my boy Matt Baxley was texting me during the game. He's a big Eagles fan, and he was talking about, he said, my goodness, this offense. He's so excited. But at the end of the day, the defense is pretty bad, and they're going to get exposed. I'll just tell you that. But Denver did look really good, 7 touchdowns from Peyton Manning. It was just a clinic that he put on, I guess it was Thursday night football. San Francisco got a big win over Green Bay. The New Orleans Saints got a win over Atlanta. I didn't necessarily expect that, although it was at home, and it was the return of Sean Payton. The Seahawks didn't look very good to me against Carolina, but Carolina's defense is really good. They got a 12-7 win, and they play San Francisco this week, so we'll find out a lot about both of those teams. And then the Eagles, we mentioned, they got a big win on Monday Night Football. Monday night had a doubleheader on ESPN. On Monday Night Football, you started out with Philadelphia and Washington. It was the return of RG3, and he looked like he'd been out for a while. He hadn't seen the field during the preseason, and he was not out there in most of the workouts, just taking punishment like he would in this game. So he looked rusty, but all that being said, Philadelphia jumped out to a big lead. Washington came back, but Philadelphia and the Eagles were able to hold on for the win. But the game of the night was the second game, the nightcap, and I don't know if you're like me and you couldn't stay up, make it happen as far as watching the whole game. I went to bed and it was 28-7. The San Diego Chargers had the lead at home, and I thought, man, I have Matt Schaub and Arian Foster on my fantasy teams. They're playing terrible. I'm in trouble. And then I wake up the next morning, and I find out that the Houston Texans came from 28-7 down to win 31-28, a big kick to win the game in the closing moments. And just a crazy game from Houston. San Diego sort of goes back to what San Diego's always done. And this year it's not North Turner's fault because he's not there. It was on Phillip Rivers and that squad. Phillip Rivers, man, he had like a .02 QBR in the fourth quarter, which is the quarterback rating that ESPN came up with to really monitor everything and factor everything into your quarterback's performance. It was just a terrible, terrible game from him, but it was a fun night, Monday Night Football. Just excited to have football back. I'll give you mine, and I'll let Brad give you his top 5 teams from our poll, our power rankings, to answer today's Peters Family Living poll question right after this break. We've got more on Alabama and Texas A&M and Arkansas Razorbacks, as well as this poll question right after the break.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz on a Wednesday. Mark Freeman and Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors studios. Thank you for joining us at RiverValleyLeader.com. Brad Caldwell joins us on the line. We talked a little bit about the Oklahoma State situation, and I told you that I wasn't sure. Looking at guys like Thayer Evans, and I said he might have worked for CBS or Yahoo. I was 0 for 2. He was with Fox, Fox Sports is where he and Jason Whitlock worked together, and Whitlock came out yesterday and just hammered him, said if he's a part of it, I don't believe it. He basically said if any major news outlet would have him involved in a story, I question their legitimacy, and I question everything that has to do with the story, because he knew him to be a disingenuous and really just a dirty reporter as far as Jason Whitlock is concerned. But Brad, as we looked at the story about Oklahoma State, there are allegations about all kinds of different stuff, but there's one name that stood out to you.
Trooper Taylor. Yep. Number one, the dirty recruiting that's been going on in Auburn for years now was pretty much spearheaded by Trooper Taylor. And that was the only reason that he was even on a football staff. In fact, he's not on one right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's basically been found to be dirty, and anywhere that he goes, trouble follows. But yeah, also Larry Porter was on that staff. He's on the staff at the University of Texas. He was the head coach at Memphis for about 2 seconds, and he was at LSU. But the thing that I find more funny than anything is the fact that this is actually more of a Les Miles thing than it is a Gundy thing. Now, I'm not saying that Gundy might not be involved here, and really who knows when it comes down to it. And I think this will be another one of those burden of proof type of things for the NCAA that they probably won't be able to prove anything because they just can't anymore. The cheaters have gotten too good. But this really goes back more to the Les Miles thing. And one of the things that I really find interesting is that Les Miles, when he was at Oklahoma State, opened the program up to boosters more. Like, from what I understand, Oklahoma State had a past of trouble before, and then they were basically closed the program off to boosters. And when Les Miles got there, that was one of the first things he did was open it back up to boosters. And you look at some of the things that are going on at LSU now, I don't know if I'd say lack of institutional control, but at the same time, I mean, you've got like the Hill kid that was the running back there or is the running back there for LSU. I mean, he's their best back, and he got in trouble. Then he gets in trouble while he's on probation, and he was kicked off the team at some point. And then Les Miles allows the team to vote him back on. I mean, to me, that's just absolutely silly. That number one, that he put that decision in his players' hands. And it just shows, and there's been things down through the years. Jordan Jefferson, when he beat the crap out of somebody at the bar there at Baton Rouge, those things have been happening, and they talked about, in the article, they talked about drug use and things like that. Well, those things are going on at LSU, and I'm sure that they're going on every other program. It seems like, though, that Les Miles tolerates them a little bit more than everybody else does. And so I think that a lot of this burden is on Les Miles more than it is anybody else, and then you're going back all the way 10 years. So really, when it comes down to it, most likely nothing's going to happen. But, to me, there's a lot of things that when you look at, especially with Les Miles, things add up to these things probably going on. But at the same time, a lot of these allegations that are thrown out in this thing were allegations that are probably going on at 90% of Division I football campuses right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, to me, Les Miles, you see it when he lets his team vote on a play. Okay, I don't want to get this wrong. What was Hill accused of doing?
I cannot remember
at LSU.
Off the top of my head. I know that he was arrested. He was on probation. He got in trouble again and was essentially he was removed from the football team indefinitely. And then again, Miles allowed the vote, and that was something that when TCU, when they were playing, they were kind of having a kick about that because nobody lets their team. Coach Patterson, he doesn't let the team vote on who's going to come back, or if Arkansas, if Alex Collins got in trouble at Arkansas and it was up to a team vote, do you not think that they would probably vote him on?
Well, yeah.
Exactly, because he's one of their best players.
And that's what I was going at, and I was going to say what Jeremy Hill did, but I didn't know for sure, so I won't necessarily get on the record with these things that he's accused of doing. But Les Miles seems like he wants to take his hands off because he knew, like you said, that they would vote him back because they know that they need him to win. And he takes his hands off and he says, "All right, well, you guys do whatever you want to do, and then I'm going to wash my hands of it." But you can't do that as a big-time college football coach. You can't just let whatever happen, especially if they're interviewing women to be escorts, to have sex with recruits. I'm not saying that this happened, but if it did, my goodness, you can't just take I'm just taking my hands off. And, the one part that sort of struck me as odd from this story, and the reason that I'm sort of questioning it, is that they said Gundy and Miles actually had interviews for these women. They actually interviewed students for this. So that's kind of, I don't know about that. And with players like Des Bryant, who he was screwed out of his whole last season with Oklahoma State, and he basically, if he had any reason to talk, or if anybody had reason to talk, he would to say, yeah, I took money. He's saying I didn't take any money, and if I didn't get paid, I can't believe anybody got paid. So anyway, it's just, to me, it's just crazy that this whole story's come about the way it has, and I don't doubt that there were some improprieties taking place at LSU. It's happening everywhere, like you said, but I just think that it's something smells fishy about the reporting behind this as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, anytime that you have something like this come out, I mean, there's always an agenda. I mean, from what I understand, this reporter was actually looking at another program, and he began to hear whispers of what was going on at Oklahoma State, and he went over there. So there's no telling who was he hearing these whispers from. You know, what did they have to gain out of this? Because I mean, look, these people, these programs that are they're pitting each other against each other because they're trying to win, and you know, there's no telling what's going to happen here, and there's no telling what the guy had involved in all of this, and it's just a messed up deal.
All right, well, let's change gears. I'm glad we got that part out of the way. We've got a poll question today we wanted you to be a part of, and a couple people have already had their take, so I want to get our opinion in there as well. NFL season is off and running. Monday Night Football we mentioned earlier on, but we asked the question today about your power rankings. Where would you put the top 5 NFL teams? That was our Peters Family Living poll question of the day. If you had to rank the top 5 NFL teams, where would you put them? I think Brad and I are going to have at least 3 of the same 5, but I don't think that we're all completely the same. Brad, where would you have your teams as far as a 1 to 5 order?
Well, you know, when you get to a point here where you put something out there, and we put our top 5 teams out there a couple weeks ago on the show, you kind of have to stick with your guns. And so my first team, my number 1 team, was the Broncos, and I don't think that they did anything to get perched or knocked off that number 1 perch, so I'm going to put them there. I'm going to follow them by the 49ers and the Seahawks, NFC West division rivals. And then again, you're trying to stick with your guns here, and this is what I'm trying to do. The Texans come in at number 4, and the Texans were, you know, they looked like crap for the first half, and then they come back, and they looked good in the second half, so I'm going to keep them up there at number 4. And then I'm going to throw in the New Orleans Saints at number 5. Number 1, they knocked off my top. I think they were number 4 in the preseason, which was the Falcons. Of course, the Falcons looked, you know, it was a back-and-forth game. They didn't look bad. The Saints are a pretty good football team, especially with Sean Payton on the sideline. So I'm going to put the Saints at number 5, and then you've probably got a mix, in my opinion, of the Patriots, the Packers, and the Falcons in those next 3 spots.
Well, you didn't have the Patriots in your top 10 coming into the season, did you?
Yes, I realize that, and I also realize that probably wasn't a great idea. But really, when you look down the line here, I mean, who can you put in there? I'm not sure the Ravens deserve to be put in there.
No.
The Colts, I threw them in my top 10. They didn't look great. They almost lost to the Raiders. The Raiders are widely considered to be one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, the Bears, maybe. You know, the Bears beat the Bengals. The Bengals were considered by some to be maybe the best team in the AFC this year, which is probably a little bit too much. So, I mean, you've got to throw those teams in there. Now, the Packers were not in my top 10 either.
They're not still?
They weren't.
Oh, okay.
They are now.
Whoa, yeah, I've got the Packers in my top 5 right now. Jason just texted in, Jason Kilburn, and he says San Francisco, Seattle, Denver, Texans, Atlanta. He said, I know Atlanta got beat. His own Tampa Bay Buccaneers almost made the list, he said. But I've got Green Bay at number 5. They did lose to San Francisco, but San Francisco's my number 1 team. So you lose a close game when Colin Kaepernick throws for 400 yards. He ran for nearly 200 last time those two played. So eventually they're going to catch them in the middle, and Green Bay is going to have a chance there at a good game against San Francisco. Number 4, I've got Seattle. They didn't look good in their first game, but they've got a great defense and a good enough offense that I feel like they're going to compete for an NFC championship. NFC is just loaded. San Francisco, Green Bay, Seattle. I don't even have Atlanta or New Orleans in my top 5, either one of them, and that's just shows you how loaded the NFC is. That I can mention off 4 or 5 teams right there. Number 3, I've got the Houston Texans. I'd probably have them higher if they didn't get down 28-7 to San Diego on Monday night, but I have to give them credit for coming back to win that game. That was a big, big win for Matt Schaub, Arian Foster, and those guys in Houston. Denver, I've got them at number 2. I've had them at number 2, even though 49 points and 7 touchdowns passing from Peyton Manning is super impressive. I don't like Baltimore this year. I don't trust that they're going to be as good. And the reason that I've got Denver at number 2 is because I've got San Francisco at number 1, and I feel like if those two played, San Francisco would win the game because their defense would be good enough to frustrate and get after Peyton Manning with a pass rush. They would be able to cover well enough to make things tough on Denver, especially since Denver can't run the ball at all. And I'm not sure that Denver could stop San Francisco with the zone read and the Colin Kaepernick throwing the ball the way he is now with the way he has been running the ball. Brad, San Francisco is just looking really impressive.
Oh, they look really good. At the same time, though, Green Bay was able to move the ball up and down the field on San Francisco, even with that defense as good and as strong as it is. I do think that Peyton Manning and the Broncos could move the football on them. I really don't think that. At least, we're talking about week 1 here too. I mean, when we get down to week 16, week 17, that's when we're going to know. Hey, there's contenders out there that look different right now than they did in the first week. I mean, there's going to be a team or two that's going to step up that you're going to think, well, that kind of came out of nowhere. It's going to happen. And I think with the 49ers and the Broncos, you're going to see different teams, maybe better teams by the time that they get down to the end of that time there, at the end of the regular season. I think that the Broncos, their offense is going to be unbelievably good. The defense is going to be the question. When are they going to get Von Miller back? I know that they have a 6-game suspension on him today. I also saw that Roger Goodell actually holds the right to continue his suspension past 6 weeks because apparently he's gotten into some sort of trouble. I didn't read the whole article.
He got a speeding ticket and driving with no license.
Right. So, I mean, that guy, I mean, will he end up being suspended for a whole year now? I mean, that he is an integral part of the Broncos defense. If they get him back at any time, I mean, he's a guy that's going to make a difference for them. He's going to be, just a guy that's going to make a difference for them down the road. And the 49ers are the same way. What you've seen this week may not be necessarily what you get by week 17. And then you've also got to account for injuries and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens down the road here. But as they stand right now, I still feel good about the Broncos, but the 49ers are a very good football team too. And to be honest with you, I'm a Cowboys fan, would love to see the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. That's not going to happen. No. So a Broncos 49ers Super Bowl is about as good as it gets for me.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm hoping for as well. I wouldn't mind to see Green Bay in there instead of San Francisco. Growing up a Dallas Cowboys fan, San Francisco was the enemy in the 90s, so we have to root against them if we have the chance. If Green Bay's playing San Francisco, I'm going for Green Bay in that game. But like you said, since the Cowboys can't be there, I just want the Indianapolis Colts and my Peyton Manning, my best favorite player in the history of the NFL, Peyton Manning, to go ahead and win another Super Bowl, cement that legacy. We've got some Arkansas Razorback talk coming up after the break. We're going to look at the Southern Miss game, what you should expect and what we expect from the Razorbacks against Southern Miss.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out rivervalleyleader.com.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville, online at petersfamilyliving.com, or call 479-968-2929.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the Force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Blitz. Mark Freeman and Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors studio here at the home of RiverValleyLeader.com. Brad Caldwell is on the line. We're looking at the Razorbacks and Southern Miss on Saturday. Arkansas 2-0, Southern Miss 0 for the last year and a half. They've lost 13 games in a row. There's somebody on Hogville predicting, that Southern Miss is going to beat Arkansas on Saturday. If they did, you would see me crying in my Cheerios on Sunday morning. I would be very upset. But Coach Bielema is on the SEC teleconference right now. He said Otha Peters is back. He's going to play linebacker for the Razorbacks. Don't know how he'll work into the rotation, but be good to have Otha Peters back. He and A.J. Turner, to me, were the two best linebackers Arkansas had. Austin Tate is still a week away, but he's coming back a little bit sooner than a lot of people might have imagined. Jarrett Lake, Coach B said, is back in the good graces of the Razorback football coaches, and he is going to start this week, and Rohan Gaines is still day-to-day, so we don't know for sure if he'll be back or not. But, Brad, this isn't necessarily going to be about the starters playing, the guys that were out last week playing. That's not necessarily going to make the difference in this game, I would hope. But there are some things that Arkansas's got to work on this week against Southern Miss.
Oh, no doubt. Again, you've got to see some shoring up. And I think that Arkansas is going to see one of their stiffest tests that they've seen so far. Of course, you've only got three of them, counting Southern Miss, that you've got moving forward here. But they're going to throw the football a bunch. I mean, a bunch. They've thrown the ball 90 times in 2 games. So they're going to come in here, they're going to throw it 50 times. They know that they can't go straight at the front of Arkansas. So I expect them to try to fling the ball all around the field. And so this is going to be a little bit of a different task for Arkansas versus what we saw with ULL, who likes to run out of the spread, and Sanford as well, who like to run out of the spread. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens this week. But, again, some shoring up of things. We'd love to see Arkansas get a little bit more pressure on the quarterback, and having Trey Flowers back in the fold should be the medicine that is needed here for Arkansas to get that done. Arkansas is going to win the football game. The question is going to be how much they're going to win it by, because Southern Miss is not going to be able to stop Arkansas.
Yeah, I feel like a big idiot for predicting a 55-6 win last week, and it was 31-21. So I'll just go ahead and tell you Friday when I give a prediction, it's going to be with a tremendous grain of salt. But I expect, like you said, for Arkansas to win the game. Do you know if Southern Miss is more of a stretch the field passing, vertically passing, or if they're going to be more of a horizontal, get it out quick and run after the catch type passing game?
Anytime that you see a team out of the spread, what they do is they try to attack the field 50 yards wide first, and then they try to throw deep after that. I look for them to throw a lot of tunnel screens, a lot of screen passes, a lot of short passes, and then when they suck Arkansas in, try to throw over the top of them. They've got Oklahoma State's offensive coordinator last year, and I cannot remember the guy's name now. I'd have to look that up. But he went over to Southern Miss and is the guy that basically ran that offense after Holgerson left. And they like to, the one thing that I know about Holgerson's offense is they like to attack more vertically. But at this point with Southern Miss, they can't do that. And so it'll probably be interesting to see what happens. But I expect them to try to throw short, suck Arkansas up, and throw over the top.
Yeah, well, then the question becomes, can Arkansas tackle? Can they make those plays in the open field? Because if you, it's always scary to me with Arkansas's defense in the past 10 years whether or not they can make that first tackle, because you see guys running free in the secondary after that, and knowing the questions that there are in the Arkansas secondary, that would scare me. So you got to hope that they can make the initial tackle, Tevin Mitchell and Will Hines and those guys, and then from the safeties, I don't know who it'll be. I guess Turner and I almost said Rohan Gaines, but he's going to be the one that's out. Eric Bennett would be the other one. Man, I forgot to give and send out condolences to Patrick Turner. It's Alan Turner. His father, Brad, did you hear about that? Passed away on Friday, and he played on Saturday.
Yes, I know.
Just awful. Did he die of cancer? Is that what it was?
Yes, it was.
Just an incredibly heart-wrenching story, and he goes out and plays at a high level on Saturday. We need to send our condolences to that family. But, Brad, like we said, the onus is going to be on the defensive backs making tackles if they're going to try to run the short passing game, and then it's going to be on the safeties and the back side of the defense to protect it when Southern Miss tries to stretch it out and go deep.
Yeah. I think Arkansas the biggest thing that Arkansas's got to do is just keep things in front of them, try to make them earn things. And again, the one thing that you don't want to do with a team like Southern Miss is give them hope and give them, an early touchdown over the top. This is a team that's lost 14 straight games coming into action on Saturday. They've been beaten pretty soundly in both the games that they've played so far this year. So you don't want to give them hope by letting them get you on over the top, and I don't really expect Arkansas to do that. Arkansas so far, defensively they've been okay. They haven't been great, but they haven't been horrible either. And you definitely haven't seen them out of the positions that they have been in the past. Arkansas has had trouble being in position on defense, and right now they seem to be in position. Now, sometimes making the plays is another thing. Now, I'm not saying they're always there, but for the most part they're there. So that means that they're sound technically, and I expect them to be that on Saturday, and that's why I still think that Southern Miss will have a hard time moving the ball.
Well, when you look at the flip side of it, Arkansas's offense running the ball, they shouldn't have much problem with Southern Miss. You expect that Alex Collins and Jonathan Williams are going to have a successful day running the football. What do you look for from the offense real quickly? We're almost out of time. From Arkansas offense, we'll break it down in a little greater detail on Friday, but initially, what are your thoughts on the Arkansas offense and what you want to see?
Well, it's just going to be much more of the same of what we saw the first two games, which has come out, established the running game, and run straight at Southern Miss. And again, I don't think that their defensive line will be able to hold up to just the pounding that Arkansas is going to give them. It's just right now Arkansas is on a different level physically than they have been in the past. So I look for them to run it straight at them and then play action off of that. Now, what I would like to see is Arkansas be a little more effective in the passing game, than they have been in the first two games. I'm a little worried, to be honest with you, about the effectiveness of Arkansas's passing game, and I think part of that is the problem that they don't have very many playmakers on the outside at wide receiver, and anytime that you see Arkansas going into four wide sets right now, you're seeing two tight ends in the slots, which tells me that they don't have a lot of faith in their playmaking ability of their wide receivers. And really, outside of Herndon, they don't have anybody that's really able to do that. So I'd like to see somebody step up and be that second person, be that next person. And, if they can do that, get the passing game to be a little bit more effective, I would be happy. But, you're going to see run first, pass second.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you. I'm wondering what Arkansas is going to do when a team like Florida or Texas A&M or Alabama stops the run cold. What do? Can you pass the ball enough to keep them honest, or are you just going to get killed because you're getting 1-2 yards 2-3 times in punting, or throwing an incomplete pass to a tight end because they know that's all you got, and they've locked down your receivers outside? I'm worried. I don't want to say worried. I'm interested to see. I know Alex Collins and Jonathan Williams are good, but it's going to take some extra work from Brandon Allen, some of the wide receivers. Julian Horton, Bolo, be on the lookout. If you see him, let us know. I'd love to see Julian Horton play well. I'd also love to see Hunter Henry get involved a little bit more. If he can stretch the field, he's dynamic, and he's going to be a good threat for this offense coming down the stretch. But like you said, Brad, I'm looking for the wide receivers to sort of come to life a little bit this week. I expect a good running performance, 250 yards rushing or so, but I'm looking for the passing game to liven up a little bit as well. Yeah,
and again, moving forward, when you see Arkansas play a little bit more physical teams, and I've thrown this out there I guess it's Monday, about Florida and South Carolina, and I didn't mention Bama. Well, I think Bama basically goes without saying. You cannot just sit there and shove it down Alabama's throat, especially running against an 8- and 9-man box. It's not going to happen. So there's got to be something that Arkansas does here in the next few weeks. Look, if you're one of those people that expects a 7-5, an 8-4 season, you better see Arkansas get a little bit better in the passing game, because I'm telling you, they're not going to be able to cram it down people's throats every game right now. They're just not built that way. They've got one really, really good offensive lineman and then some pretty good offensive linemen, and at this point, you're running against 8- and 9-man boxes against teams that are very inferior. Well, the teams that you're moving forward are not inferior. In fact, they have more talent than you have, and so you're going to have to be able to do some stuff to keep them honest. As long as Arkansas sees a 7-man box, they're going to be okay, but moving forward, they have got to be more effective in the passing game if you want to see Arkansas get to that 7-win plateau.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. We've got plenty of stuff left for Prediction Friday. We hope you'll join us, but we are out of time for today. Brad, thank you for calling, and I hope you'll be able to call in Friday.
All right, man.
All right, that's Brad Caldwell. And that's been the Sports Blitz. That's all the time we have for this Wednesday. We will be back on Friday at 11 o'clock. You can let us know what you'd like to talk about. Come to Facebook.com/SportsBlitz or call us at 968-NEWS. Email me at mark@rivervalleyleader.com. We'd love to have you involved in the show. We're going to give away some tickets to Clarksville, Ozark, and Russellville all season. Some of the passes for them on Friday, as well as give our predictions for Arkansas, Southern Miss, college football as a whole, and the NFL. Plenty of stuff on a Prediction Friday, so we're looking forward to that. Join us again Friday at 11 o'clock, rivervalleyleader.com, for more Sports Blitz.